This is your captain speaking. We're about 2,500 feet in sunny skies. About to touch down in Detroit. Air quality is good. 85 degrees.
Oh my god.
Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome to the Ride Home podcast. My name is Abby.
Hey guys, I'm Caitlin.
So you might hear a little bit of an audio difference in this episode. A good friend of ours, Will Mullican, hooked us up with some new microphones that we'll post on our Instagram. Our little headsets that we're wearing now makes it a lot easier to be in the car, because before we had these little lav mics. So yeah, we're cooking with gas now.
We're super excited and we feel really legit. So thank you, Will. We love you. The only issue is that I have a giant head.
Yeah, if there's any audio issues, it's Caitlin's giant head.
It's just my giant head. I'm so sorry. There's nothing I can do about it.
There's nothing else.
And the problem is that not only do I have a giant head, but I also have enough hair for 1,000 people.
Correct.
So it's a large head, an enormous head, and a lot of hair. It's just horrible because no hats fit my head.
And now apparently no headset microphones do
this
either.
One headset that I've tried
Yeah.
also doesn't, but it's okay. We're making do.
Do you remember the time that we went go-karting and they couldn't fit a helmet on your head?
They went for a large and it wouldn't even go past my forehead. And she was like, oh, and had to get an extra large
the
helmet.
shock in her eyes, because I feel like she probably doesn't have to do that for very many
sweetie,
people.
I don't think they've ever had to use the extra large for anyone, but they did for me, and I'm just special.
You are special. So
Also special. Just a little transition here.
Also special, Elvis Presley.
Elvis himself is way more special than I think I ever gave him credit for.
So we did see Elvis tonight, directed by Baz Luhrmann. We had to Google the pronunciation of it. Was it Baz or Boz?
We think it's Baz. It sounds better. Baz sounds cooler.
Yeah. So he is made famous for similar types of movies.
Yeah.
Showmanship for
sure.
So Moulin Rouge
gilded,
is
if you will.
the gilded age of showmanship. As always, coming out of the theater, what's your initial reaction?
My initial reactions are Austin Butler can get it.
Okay.
And Tom Hanks needs to shut the fuck up.
Okay, listen. I adore Tom Hanks. I adore him. He's one of my favorite actors of all time. This movie was his worst ever.
Worst acted I've ever seen him.
I genuinely can't think of a time I saw Tom Hanks in a movie and was like, wow, I really wish Tom Hanks wasn't in this movie. But I feel like he should have not been in this movie.
He shouldn't have been. Nothing about him or his character should have been.
A little bit of background is that I did not know anything about Elvis's life, going into this movie. And apparently,
except that he died on a toilet.
Right.
That's maybe the only real thing I knew about him.
And that he liked peanut butter and banana sandwiches.
And bacon. Something with bacon also, I think.
Something like that. Apparently, he had this career-long manager who basically robbed him of 50% of his profits, and also, for personal reasons that you discover within the movie, kept Elvis from expanding his career because he needed to control certain situations for his own benefit.
Basically, he was just a big old mooch.
He was a big old mooch.
A big old annoying fucking mooch.
And this man was why did they call him Colonel Parker?
They never
at any point said why he was referred to as Colonel Parker. They just always referred to him as Colonel Parker.
And it was like everyone just knew that
Everyone
that was
like,
Colonel
oh, yeah,
Parker.
That's Colonel Kerner.
Kerner.
Kerner
Kerner
Parker. So Colonel Tom Parker discovers young Elvis while he's like up and coming on the scene in Memphis, and basically takes a risk on him because he's playing black music as a white man. And so he is just like, you know what, I haven't seen people go this crazy for somebody before, I'm gonna sign you. And it just like tumbleweaves into, you know, the entirety of Elvis's career. So Tom Hanks plays Colonel Tom Parker, and he has this awful accent.
What even was it supposed to be?
I think I looked it up, and it was supposed to be like Dutch, which like we know someone who is from the Netherlands, and he does not sound anything like that. He sounded very like Polish to me.
Yes, but like bad.
A very nondescript, horrible accent.
Nondescript, but is descript as in it's horrible.
The description is that it's the worst accent I've ever heard.
Oh God.
Yeah.
And like the makeup on him was a weird choice.
You know what though, is that I had this thought in the movie, and I had this thought just now when you were like talking about how you wished that Tom Hanks wasn't in it, and then you also mentioned that you wish that just his character in general wasn't in it. I think that if a no-name actor or like somebody that's like kind of famous but mostly for like character roles played him, I think it would have been fine.
I think so too. And I do actually retract my statement about his character not being in the movie, because that was a very large part of the story of the movie.
Right.
And honestly, like, I appreciated the story of their relationship of Colonel Tom Parker and everything that happened with that, because it makes a lot of sense as far as like the things that we didn't necessarily know about Elvis's life.
Right.
But it didn't need to be played like that. And like, I'm wondering if it was just a direction.
I hate to say it, but I think a small part of it is that we just recognized him too much. You know, so you just see fat Tom Hanks with this like weird accent that maybe if like it was some other no-name person, or you know, someone that we've seen on occasion, we would have like let the accent fly, we would have let the fat suit fly, and we would have just like leaned into who the character was.
It's almost like, you know how Tom Hanks played like every voice in the Polar Express? Like that didn't bother me because it was a different character and it was a different animation for each person, and he did different voices, and that was okay. Like that played fine on screen. But like this, like you said, like we could see this is clearly Tom Hanks in a fat suit.
It was bad.
And a bad fat suit. Like I don't know, just it was kind of,
he had a fupa,
caricature-ish.
He
had a fupa.
I think too, one of the most unfortunate things about Tom Hanks, beyond like loving Tom Hanks so much and being so disappointed by a bad performance from him, but in comparison, he's playing against like some really, really strong performances. And so it didn't feel like they were the same movie.
I kept thinking that. So most of the scenes with the Colonel, aka Tom Hanks, are with Elvis, aka Austin Butler, who fucking acted circles around Tom Hanks.
Man. You know what? We made fun of Austin Butler on our last episode because like he hasn't been able to get out of the Elvis character yet. But like,
we get it.
We understand now.
Austin, we see you.
He put his whole Elvis-y into that movie.
He did, for sure.
Like, there were some scenes like towards the beginning where I caught myself smirking a little bit because I was like, oh, it's like
Austin Butler.
It's Austin Butler, and it's the guy that can't get out of his character. And, you know, when he was saying, they're going to put me in jail for how I was moving. There were these like small moments where I remembered it was Austin Butler, and it made me laugh, and I'm mad at like culture and society for making me think that way, because that was one hell of a performance.
Incredible. I was blown away.
Yeah.
I'm blown away by his performance, his mannerisms, even just like, not even take out the fact that he was acting and being Elvis, just his plain old acting was bomb.
Yeah, he was really good.
That was just solid acting.
And I think what was really great about it is that, like, he was doing an impersonation, like you said, you know, he is acting as Elvis. But he had these really subtle movements of his eyes.
Yeah.
Like, while he was acting, that I was like, oh my God, like, that's a person. Like, it made Elvis human, because, like, for us growing up, who A, we didn't live in that time,
right,
B, you know, our memory of Elvis, I mean, for me, was like fat Elvis impersonators in Vegas. So, like, Elvis was never a person.
He was really far removed from us.
Yeah. And he really made him human. And like, I felt like I was watching Elvis come alive again.
I
on
agree.
Screen.
I completely agree. It was, like, I know this sounds kind of corny, but it was beautiful. Like, it was a really beautiful performance to watch. And it was very moving. And like you said, I really liked what he did there. Like, it was very subtle. The scenes where he was performing on stage is where I think he really acted well. And like, it felt like it was Elvis. Like you said, it really felt like it was Elvis's, like, spirit embodied him.
Which they filtered in camera footage of the real Elvis throughout the movie. And at times I, like, had to look really closely to like tell the difference, because the way Austin Butler, like, inhabited Elvis's body, like, sure, their faces aren't exactly the same, but, like, the way he moved, the way he, like, talked, the way
carried himself,
all of that. You know, at one part in the movie, there was a montage where we actually heard Elvis speaking, like the real Elvis. They sounded almost identical.
Yeah.
And not to mention, Elvis Butler apparently sings.
Elvis Butler. He is Elvis.
He has become Elvis. Austin Butler sang through a large majority of this movie. I did a little bit of research leading up to it that he sang the majority of the scenes where Elvis is young. And then in the scenes that Elvis is older, they mixed his voice with a track of Elvis.
Which is super cool.
Which is so cool.
And it played, oh man, that, I have to say, the audio of, like, their voices, you would never be able to tell that. First of all, like, they blended it so well.
Right.
But just, like, in general, like, the audio was amazing. Well, we were also, just a quick side note, we did get to see this in an RPX theater, which we didn't even really know what that is, which we should, I feel, as weekly moviegoers.
Right.
But what an experience.
No, our little leather seats.
Like, I felt like it was like we should only see a Baz Luhrmann movie in leather seats with, like, red walls.
Right.
Like, of course.
Right. The only issue with the leather seats was the girl behind me kept, like, shaking her foot on the leather seat, and it was going like the entire movie.
Oh no.
But yeah, the audio in that movie, just like the sound mixing in general throughout that movie, was incredible. I feel like I'm gonna have, like, an Elvis moment after this. Like, I want to go home and listen to his music.
I was gonna say, I feel like I definitely want to listen to his music.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so funny because even all of the songs in the movie, it's like, oh yeah, I know that song, I know that song. I knew all of the songs, especially with my parents being older. Like, I really grew up listening to a lot of that time frame of music.
Genre, yeah.
And I remember it was so funny when the movie first started and Elvis had, like, kind of, it was like his first performance where he was, like, gyrating around and the girls were screaming. I, like, leaned over to Abby and I was like, my mom said that this is what it was really like. Because I remember when I was little, like you said, when we were little, like, we were so far removed, but it was still, it was like he was such, like,
an icon
and a pillar of our culture,
that
I just wanted to know more about him. And I remember asking my mom about him, and she said, like, that she was like, it was insane. Like, people went insane.
My grandma recently passed away, and we found her journal that she kept when she was in the nursing home, and it said what her favorite color was, what her favorite, like, movie was, and she put her favorite artist was Elvis.
Oh my God.
And just like humorously and picturing like my sweet little grandma like losing her shit over.
She probably was.
She probably
they all
did.
were.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
I understand it because I was watching it and I was like, okay, if I lived in the 50s, I would have been one of those girls throwing my panties at Elvis.
You were that girl tonight.
I was throwing my panties at Austin Butler in the theater.
She leans over like literally 5 minutes into the movie and it's just like, he can get it. Like,
yes. No, I was like, I think I'm a little bit into him. But
Yeah.
then like as a movie, I was like, oh, I'm definitely into him.
yeah. Him done up as
Him
Elvis.
as Elvis though,
it's-
like that's a little niche.
yeah.
Little niche crush for me.
Yeah. I was very impressed also with just the overall production of it.
Mm-hmm.
Baz is known for that, again, showmanship.
Yeah, he's gonna go all
The editing was lights out. It
Mhm.
was, again, they mixed so much of like the old footage with the footage of Austin Butler, and the melding of like real and fake was so well done that you lost track of what was real and what
I
was
was
fake.
gonna say there were some times where like I honestly couldn't tell
Yeah.
if this was like real footage or from the movie, and
Yeah.
it was so, like you said, it was so seamless.
Yep. And also the pacing of the movie was so surprisingly fast, because we came out of the theater and we were like, wait, how is it 8:00 already? Because we saw a 5:00 showing.
Yeah.
And it did not feel like a long movie at all.
No,
It was very well paced.
but I think it's kind of interesting too because you think about Elvis's life was kind of that way too.
Mhm.
I mean, it's just as far as how they showed it in the movie and how they depicted it. It was a lot of flashiness, which speaking of flashing, they did flash like at the end his kind of like birth date and death date. And I found out that Elvis is a Capricorn,
Which, of course.
which like it makes so much sense. Like I said, I looked at Abby and I was like, oh my God, a Capricorn king. And then I was like, of course he was a
Expensive
Capricorn. He
tastes.
loved to spend money.
Yep.
He loved expensive things.
He loved social justice.
He loved social justice. He loved all of the things that I love.
Yeah. Jumping off of that, obviously this is a movie, and so we don't really know if this is how Elvis thought and
Sure.
felt. But if this was how he thought and felt, I truly didn't know how much of a like progressive Elvis was.
Yeah.
And how supportive he was of black people in a very unsupportive time.
Mhm.
They said he grew up in a segregated section of town that was just for black people
Mhm.
because his mom couldn't afford anything else.
Right.
And so he grew up with that music, with that
Mhm.
culture, and he kept coming back to it and appreciating it. And I think that's one of the criticisms I've heard over the years about Elvis is like, Elvis would be nothing without
Mm-hmm.
black people.
Mm-hmm.
And that is absolutely true.
Sure.
And the movie makes it clear that that is, which
Yeah.
I appreciated, because even some scenes where he was performing, there was a split screen of a black man performing that song
Mm-hmm.
that he heard as a child.
Right.
And I thought that was so awesome.
I think it's just so cool. Like I didn't know that it went that deep, I guess.
Mhm.
That he was, like you said, was raised in the projects in the side of
Right.
the town where no white people live.
Yeah.
And honestly, if he hadn't lived in that
We wouldn't have
neighborhood,
had
we
Elvis.
probably would not have
Yeah.
had Elvis.
Which, watching this movie, I had no idea how just troubled and lonely and awful the last few years of his life were.
I didn't either, but as like the movie played out and we saw that, it was so sad.
Yeah.
And it was really hard to watch.
But I think the thing that was so interesting the whole time was that they kept reminding us that he made the choices he made to take care of not only his family, but like his cousins, his
Yes.
friends, he supported like a sea of people.
Yeah.
And all of these choices that unfortunately led to his death weren't because he partied too hard.
Mhm,
It
mhm.
was because he was literally being injected and pills shoved down his throat so that he could physically stand on stage every night.
Mhm.
And that's like, I had no idea
I
that
didn't
was
know
a thing.
that either. That's so disgusting. When they at the end, when they like kind of rolled the credits of like whatever happened with Colonel Tom Parker, whatever, like we literally both flipped off the screen and I said get fucked, because like I hate Colonel Tom Parker with a burning passion.
There was a lot of behind the scenes stuff that I did not know about, and like finding out through this movie or just experiencing it as like a fictional piece.
Sure.
Was heart-wrenching and was so hard to watch, because in this film he loved and trusted so many of the wrong people that it eventually literally killed him.
Oh, just like watching him get taken advantage of by that guy like so many times. I'm just like, what the fuck?
The scenes with Elvis like angry at that, I felt like we were all Elvis.
Yeah, we felt like that Elvis. We feel ya. Throw those pictures around, boo.
Booby!
Oh my god, Booby.
First of all, was Elvis's mom in love with him?
It seemed that way.
Okay.
It sure
I might do some
seemed
research on that, if there was some like weird mother issues that he has.
To be,
because she seemed to like him in more than a mother-son way.
Just the one comment did it for me, where she was like, I'm worried that they're going to come between us.
Oh, yeah.
When she was talking about the girls in the audience watching her son sing.
Yeah.
And I was like, come between you?
And she was like a Christian. She was
in
like,
what way?
And she was like a Christian woman, but she was like, those moves that you have are God-given. And it's him like thrusting his penis at people.
And we didn't really say, we just said Booby earlier, but she called him Booby.
Yes, Booby was his nickname. At no point in a movie hearing somebody being called Booby is that not funny. So like everyone in the audience chuckled. Laughed. Like every single time she's like, Booby! I'll tell you what, Booby.
We do approve of Booby shaking his thing on the stage.
Yeah. He did great.
I just can't get over it. Little Elvis Austin Butler. Presley.
Austin Elvis, but he might change his name.
What if he does? Like, what if he does like a whole thing?
He might need to like, check into a rehab.
So he did method. Right?
Yeah.
And so like he might need some help.
Yeah.
Because anytime you hear of an actor going method and then their performance is that good, I get scared.
Yeah. Which I recently watched an interview that COVID shut down production for 6 months while they were mid-production, and in order to stay in character, he was method for 6 months by himself alone in quarantine.
I actually do want him to come and live with us, because I'm scared for his mental health. Does he have a girlfriend or someone?
He was dating Vanessa Hudgens, but they broke up a while ago.
I'm also scared for his mental health. Let's find you someone else, Booby. Booby, just come live with us. We love you.
So overall, what would you give this movie?
I think you're going to be surprised by this, but I'm going to give it a large popcorn.
Yeah?
Yeah.
There you go. So I'm teetering between a medium and a large.
Okay.
Because I think there were some like little small issues throughout, which I think we led too heavy with Colonel Tom Parker, and it took you a long time to get to know Elvis, and I didn't really like that Elvis wasn't the lead for the first half of the movie, basically.
Yeah.
The movie kind of made it seem like Elvis was never famous.
Right.
By the way that they like laid out his career. But then at the end of the movie, they were like, oh, he's the greatest selling artist of all time. So I think I would have appreciated a little bit more of like his recording career and actually seeing him perform more throughout his career and not just like towards the end. So I think those small issues are going to make me do a medium popcorn, but I will say that it was a medium popcorn with your favorite flavor of icy along with it.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's totally fair. And really the only reason why I went full send with the large is because I'm just kind of like pretending that Tom Hanks wasn't in it.
You can go full sound with a large. It was a great movie.
And for me, and just seeing him like, be a person and being a musician and just being a star. I mean, like, I don't know what else to say. Like, he was truly a star. And there was like a scene where he was like, I feel like no one's ever going to remember me. And I was like, no, we do. We're watching a movie about you right now.
Meanwhile, like, everyone knows who Elvis is.
Literally every single person. Yeah. So I'm like happy that for him, like that his legacy is still a thing, because
I am sad though that so much of his legacy is man who died on the shitter, fat Elvis eating peanut butter and banana.
know.
And I hope that enough people see this movie to humanize him a little bit, because now that I've seen it, it actually makes me sick to think that there are Elvis impersonators all over Vegas, because that man was literally trapped inside Vegas.
He really was.
He was like imprisoned in Vegas. That's the last place he would ever want to be remembered, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Ugh,
man,
yeah.
it really did a great job of humanizing him and
For sure.
and telling a really compelling story about a very compelling person. So that does it for us this week. We are taking a hiatus break next week.
Okay.
There's nothing really coming out, but I'm super excited about our next episode, which is going to be coming out July 8th, and that is Thor: Love and Thunder.
Yes.
Which I am already buttering it up to be an amazing movie, and so I hope it is, because if not, I'm going to be very disappointed.
Yikes. We're in for one disappointed.
Yeah. So everybody say a prayer tonight, or meditate, manifest, however you believe, that Thor: Love and Thunder is great, because that's all I need in this world.
Okay. We got it. Will do.
Well, everybody, have a great weekend. We will see you guys next time.
Thanks for joining us on the ride home.